Today, we're just going to be sharing with you about some program, about what our program does, and you will see some resources on your table, and we will be making references to those resources. Feel free to explore. At the end of it, we would appreciate your help if you could help put them over to the table over there so that the next speaker can have the space for it. It will be good if you return all of them because we took it out from our classroom. Right. Very quickly about our program, we work with kindergarteners in Singapore, K1 and K2. That's the year that they turn 5, and all the way up to age 6, close to age 7. These kids generally have difficulty in the areas of early reading, spelling, writing. We are talking about pre-reading, pre-writing, pre-spelling. Okay? And what we do 2 hours a week outside regular school hours with intervention is we teach them skills and strategies that will complement their learning in their regular preschool. And the skills and strategies, some of it over here that you will see at your table, we'll be making references to snapshots of them. All right? And research has already shown that if we start early intervention early, and also shared by Prof. Everett just now, early intervention matters. So moving on, we work with kids K1, 2, small group size of up to 5, and with IEP, practicing differentiated teaching. Structured, cumulative, sequential, multisensory is something that you'll see a lot in our classroom because basically kids are on the move. When I walk you through some of the activities later on, and when Yiyao shared with you some of the snapshot activities later on, you will know why we mean by multisensory. And of course, we keep everyone updated on students' progress twice a year through parent-teacher conferences. And the outcome of the intervention is measured annually through our annual program evaluation, and that is also published. Anyone interested in looking at the stats and the research data can actually log onto DAS website, and under publications, look for DAS handbook. Now, DAS itself has got 14 learning centers to date, and all the stars that you see over here are DAS learning centers. The blue stars are the ones that currently offer preschool early literacy intervention program. And moving into the heartlands for kids who may not be able to make it into our classroom, DAS classroom for intervention, for whatever reason that is beyond their control, we have got what we call satellite classrooms or satellite centers, whereby we work with schools and our therapists go into school and work with kids who needed help. Now, over here, what you can see, this wheel, all these are components that we cover in our program, 2-hour program, every week. Kids come in once a week or twice a week, 1 hour, 1 hour each, but whatever combination, in the 2 hours, all these are being covered. We will be sharing with you what each component will be done in subsequent slides. Okay, alphabet knowledge. Alphabet knowledge will refer to 3 things. Able to recognize the letters A to Z, uppercase, lowercase. Able to write A to Z, upper, lowercase. Able to sequence A to Z, upper, lowercase. Now, it might sound like easy, but not so for preschoolers, particularly if they are struggling and they have got learning difficulties potentially. So over here, you will see on the table. Now, if a kid doesn't like to do letters, I know some letters, I don't know some letters, and every time when teacher point to the letter, what is this, what is this, what is this, the child gets stressed. So in intervention, how do we navigate that? Okay, so, and if we have got, let's say this table, you know A to D. You are very good LMN. For you, maybe up to A, B, C. D, E is tricky. So how, in a group setting, would I help them review, strengthen their learning when they're so different? Secret lies in the egg. Okay? Now, this Easter egg, as a teacher, I can put in letters that she knows. Letters that she gets confused. I can put it in chunks. Put it in the egg. So she has her egg, she has her egg, she has her egg. Each one to them is, oh, I like this color, I like this color. As teacher, I already know what color they want. So I can put in specific letters inside. Then I'll bring up my tray of eggs. And I'll say, okay, right, what color would you like today? Of course, they'll choose their favorite color. Give it to them. And then I will say, hold on. Okay, then I'll say, okay, here's your egg. Okay, everybody will be happy to crack the egg, right? You can go ahead, take your egg out. The surprise is inside. So when they open up the egg, yes, the surprise. Okay, so I can ask them, can you name me the letter? What have you got? I can pretend then. What have you got? Can you name me the letter? Very good. Okay, if they reverse, they turn it upside down, how do you think? Everybody will be looking at that. I know this, very good. Name me the letters. They can name. Alphabet recognition, they can sequence. There's a string inside. After this sequence, they arrange, I can say, can you thread it through? Which is eye-hand coordination, fine motor skills, break the monotony of it. So they can do it, everybody do it. Very good. After that, you can get them to show off to each other. What have you got? Then they have to repeat the letters. They have to share what they have. So it's good for self-motivation. It's very nice hands-on. And you can always vary. After that, if you want to stretch the challenge, if your time permit, get them to exchange. Then it stretches. Okay? So this is just one simple way using the egg to do letter review or introduce a new letter. You can do it with sight words, you can do it with anything. Okay, so it allows differentiation. Letter identification, sometimes besides that, after a while, whenever you bring out the egg, the kids can say, not the eggs again. Okay, right. Then you can have magnetic letters. Okay, you can have plastic letters, you can put it in sand. Have, you know those tapao boxes? Once you clean it up, or if you don't want, you buy your own, you put some $2 Daiso sand inside from the gardening section. Okay, then you put in your letters. Then you can get the kids to shake, can you find? If it's magnetic letters, you can bring the magnet and you make them do fishing. So you don't need to do cutting. You don't need to do a lot. Then your hand get very tired, right, to make the fish. Straight away, find the letter. Okay, so that's another way of doing it. So you can vary. So it's very hands-on, all right? So you can see different versions of magnetic letters on the table. Okay, so those you can put it on the whiteboard. You can push it around manipulatively so that they can sequence without having to write, which is very stressful. Sometimes they can't remember how to write, and by the time they try to remember how to write, they already feel pretty discouraged. So this takes away the stress while you focus on either naming, sequencing, or matching upper lower cases. So feel free to explore. With that, I move over to Yiyao, who will share with you the next tip.
Hello. Okay, hold on. Okay, so like what Carla has mentioned, it is very important for the child to know the alphabet knowledge, because without alphabet knowledge, we cannot progress onto reading and spelling itself. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier in the curriculum framework that you saw, one of the components that we cover is actually phonological awareness. Yeah, for phonological awareness, basically, if I put in layman's term, right, it's basically phonics. However, we move down to the smallest unit, which is, for example, if I tell the child the word cat, first the child must be able to identify the numbers of sounds that they hear, which is actually very, very tricky for the students within our classroom itself. So it's something that we teach the child explicitly. Yeah, after the child is able to identify the number of sounds in a word, then we can move on to the next thing, which is called teaching the child the beginning, middle, and the ending sound. Yeah, so this is actually a very important concept that we teach our child. It's actually an essential concept the child needs to have before we can move on to other literacy skills. Yeah, so as anybody who's a preschool teacher here, okay. Yeah, so the first thing is for most of our children, it's actually, I would say slightly easier to teach them the beginning sound. Yeah. So to teach beginning sound, you don't have to wait till the child has actually covered from A to Z. You know, sometimes you can come with two-letter nonsense words such as, for example, as. So you can just tell the child, can you tell me what is the beginning sound in the word as? Then you get the child to say, to hear the air sound. So let's assuming the child has already established a certain knowledge, they already kind of know A to Z quite well. I would not expect the child to be able to know 100% because, you know, it'll take a while for the child to actually retain all this information. Yeah, but to reinforce what they've learned, you can actually carry out activities like using a place chart with all the different pictures. Okay, most of the resources you can get on teacherspayteachers.com. You know, as educators, we have very, very limited time, but there's so much that you want to do with your children. Yeah, a lot of US home-based, school-based homeschooling, a lot of mothers actually go online and they make all these resources available to the public. So you can just download it and then just laminate it and then use it. So as mentioned earlier, the magnetic letters that you have on the table, what we always encourage within our classroom is we'll buy one resource and you can use it for multiple purpose because you don't want to buy a resource that you can use for a specific activity. Yeah, I mean, firstly, at the end of the day, we are talking about being cost effective as well. So once the child has letter sound knowledge of A to Z, you can just get the child to do independent work. Yeah. So for example, like one of my students, they know there's a picture of a sun over there. So then so I told the child, okay, so in the word sun, what's the beginning sound? So the child told me S. But then at the same time, even though the child is able to tell me it is the S sound, I need to confirm again that the child knows which letter forms the letter S. Yeah, so if the child is actually not writing, this is the part where you can actually use the magnetic letters or, you know, the ones in the X, right? And get the child to place it on top. So if the child is ready, then you move on to maybe more writing activity. But as of this stage, if the child is not so keen on writing, then you can use the magnetic letters. Yeah, so moving forward, after that, then we teach the ending sound, which is also slightly easier. So the same concept can apply as well. So even though it's the same piece of picture that we have, let's say, okay, maybe this is not a very good example. So let's say ending sound, if I have the word sun again, you just tell the child, okay, now sun, what is the ending sound? Which is actually an sound with the same piece of activity that you have. Just get the child to identify, take out the letter N and put it on top. So as you can see, we are talking about using just one magnetic letter and same piece of paper. You are actually teaching two different concepts. If the child is ready, do the beginning sound. If the child is not so ready, then you probably just select certain components. And if the child is ready, then maybe you can just challenge the child. Say you have two sets of different magnetic letters. So you can say maybe the blue one for the beginning sound and then maybe the red one for the ending sound. Yeah? So once that is ready, then we move on to the middle sound. It's actually more difficult. So most of even our lower primary students actually struggle with the vowel sound. Those are the resources that we use within our classroom, but within your own classroom itself, you know, you have Tupperware containers or tall plastic containers that you have. You can just look for items or even just pictures, yeah, and get the child to sort it out according to the different vowels. So this can be an independent activity, or you can actually scaffold and help the child. Yeah. So for example, if the word hot, what is the vowel sound? So the child says oh, then you just sort out the items accordingly. Yeah? Okay. So moving forward, after phonological awareness, the other thing that we teach in class is reading. So one of the concepts, most of my parents actually come to me and say that, hey, my child doesn't really know how to read. Yeah, then I'll ask them, they say, oh, my child knows the letters A to Z, but they cannot join the sounds together. So put in layman's term once again, for some children, it's very easy for them to read, you know, put two letters together and read automatically. However, for our children itself, they actually need a step 1A to actually even to read a two letters word. And the step 1A is basically blending. Yeah, so blending can be very, very, very difficult for some of our children. And how do we actually, one of the ways that we actually teach blending is to use the magnetic letters and the cards that you see on the table itself. Yeah, so if you want to, what we can do is we can come around. Yeah, we can take out some letters and then I can demo to you how to go about doing the blending. Do you guys want to take out the letters? Yeah, it's a fun activity.
It's fun.
Yeah, and it's one of the ways that I find that it's most effective in teaching the child blending without using so much of effort on your end as well. So if you could just take out one vowel, which are either A, E, I, O, U, or one of the consonant, then we can go around to just go through very quickly with you. Are you helping out with got your, okay, so let's say it's a nonsense word, right? So if, let's say I want to read, so assuming the child really knows some of these letters, okay, then you just go b, or we know it's b, right? But for children it's very difficult, so you just get them to blend like b, or, then you tell the child go a little bit faster, b, and then go faster and faster again, so the child is able to read 2-letter words. I find that it works, but different teacher have different approach, but I think this is the one that seems to work better with both girls and boys. It's visual, and because they can use the car to help them to track, and they know how to drag. You know, some children they cannot really drag, right? Then you just have to put it a bit longer. Yeah. So pointing is also fine. So whatever works for the child. But within my classroom, I tried pointing, and I always use the car lah. I mean, because they always say, I give you a car, you go and choose K, then you choose your favorite car. Then they are more motivated to do it. Yeah, so when you're doing that, right, instead of using you can continue with them. Instead of just using magnetic letters, use whatever letters you have. You know, it can be the letters in the Easter eggs, or it can be just any letter that you write on the paper. Let's say for whatever reasons you cannot prepare the resource. So it's quite versatile. Yeah, and being a teacher, I always go Daiso. Daiso is my best friend. Okay, everything for $2, or any neighborhood shop, those old neighborhood shop where they sell this car, or pasar malam. Yeah. So in the picture, you actually see that my colleagues have actually printed out a picture of the road. So if you have the time, you can do it. I mean, but if you do not have the time, you can just place the letters as it is on the table and then get the child to carry out the activity. Thank you very much. Yeah. So that is at 2 letters level. So after that, once the child has actually picked out the blending scale, disclaimer, even though it's an activity, some children may actually take a while to still master blending itself. Yeah, you know, it doesn't happen like immediately. Yeah, so once the child is more comfortable with 2 letters, then we move on to 3 letters and 4 letters according to the level of difficulty itself. If the child has not even picked out the blending scale, please do not give the child a 3-letter word because the child will be completely turned off by it. That will just hamper whatever effort you have already put into the class earlier on. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to share with you is, let's move on to the next level, which is actually the 3-letter words at CVC level. You see on each table, you have this little gadget. Not a gadget, but this little toy. Yeah. So like we've mentioned earlier, like what Carla mentioned earlier, within our classroom, we don't just teach we teach one main concept, but even though we're doing one activity, we also try to target other skill sets as well, a lot of fine motor skills, because a lot of our children actually have difficulties with their gross and fine motor skills. Within a 2-hour class, it is very difficult for us to do a lot of things, so we try to tackle as much as we can with one activity. Yeah, kill as many birds as we can within one stone. Yeah. So this itself, if you want to, please, by the way, you cannot remove the 2 ends, okay? These 2 blue balls, you can't remove it, so please leave it attached. Once the child has picked up blending, more independent, for example, or 50% independent, depending how it is, you can get the child to actually do this independently, or you can do it side by side with the child and get the child to manipulate. If you pass it around, you actually realize that you actually need to use your fingers to hold on to one end, and the other hand, right, the other fingers to actually twist it around. Yeah, so some of the words, I believe there are some I don't know if all of them are nonsense words, but I know some of them are real words, right? Then you can get the child to twist it around, and then you can get the child to blend it. The other way to do this is, let's say you don't want to spend the money on these resources, right, is to use toilet roll to make it, and then put it on the rod itself, and then put something at the back. So end of the day, we always try to encourage teachers to make something that's very flexible. Yeah, so you can start with 2 letters, and then maybe if you have a longer holder, right, you can add in more toilet rolls, and then just put the letters around it. Yeah, and then reuse the same thing again and again. Yeah. So with the same thing, you can also use it for differentiated teaching. So let's say I have a child who's very weak, who can only do 2-letter words. Then you can pass the child with just 1 rod with 2 letters, whereas the rest of the children who are slightly better, they can move on to the one with 3 or 4. So it is the same activity, but it's differentiated because it caters to the child's learning needs. Yeah. Okay? Do you guys want to play, or I can move on? can move on now. Okay, awesome. Okay, next one, spelling. Also very tricky because first the child must have a good PA knowledge, right? Okay, so before we even move on to spelling, the first thing we teach within our child is, okay, let's do segmenting. That means, are you able to hear the number of words again? Like what I mentioned for reading, right? Yeah. Okay, so for segmenting, to make it easy, let's say the child already has a good concept of PA, then we teach the child how to do segmenting. Within our classroom, a lot of our children, some of them, because of their fine motor skills, right, they may not be confident writers. They may not be so keen to actually hold pencil. Yeah, however, we know that, hey, you already know this concept, right? But I need you to practice this concept. So how do we actually take away the act of kind of writing away from the child is to actually go back to the magnetic letters. See, one magnetic letters, right? Pasar Malam is selling it for about $2 or $2.50. Yeah, if you go online, Carousel, it's about $4.50. Yeah, then you can use the same magnetic letters and use this to replace the act of writing itself. So same thing, back to the word sun. If the child is very weak, this picture is not very clear, but it actually has 3 boxes. So because it represents 3 sounds, then that is the part where you come in and help the child a bit, right? And then say, okay, this is sun. Can you tell me what's the first sound you hear? So get the child to look for the letter S again, all right? Can you tell me what's the middle sound you hear? Then get the child to write down, identify the letter U. Yeah, so if the child is more confident, then you get the child to actually use the paper and pencil to write it down. Otherwise, just use resources to replace the writing. So once again, what we are trying to say is, within your class, let's say you do differentiated teaching, children who are not ready, use something else to replace another activity, not another activity, the act of writing. Okay? Or you can even do it on the magnetic letters itself on the board. Okay, so the next one that I believe a lot of us have actually read about it is basically the social and emotional learning. So this is something that we emphasize a lot within our classroom as well. Reason being, we have a lot of K1s, K2 and K2 repeats. So K2 repeats are children who are 7 years old. Technically, they're supposed to be in our mainstream education, P1, but for what different reasons, because maybe literacy, because they have other learning needs, right? They are not in mainstream school. So children being children, they are very aware when they are behind their peers. Yeah. So most of the time when we actually have these children within our program, things that we notice is basically children have very low self-confidence level, poor low self-esteem. They don't really want to speak up. Yeah. They don't know when to ask for help. Yeah. They also display behavioral challenges. Yeah. So there are teachers out there who say that, oh, this child is lazy. This child, it's very hyperactive. He doesn't know how to sit still. Yeah. The reason the child is acting out is not because they really have behavioral challenges, but because it's their way of telling adults that, hey, look, I need help. But children will act up. So this is the part where we actually teach the child how to build their soft skills, which we all know in moving forward, right? That is something that we focus a lot on. Yeah. So how do we actually go about teaching social and emotional learning? If you look onto the right-hand side, that's the feelings chart. There is one on each table. Yeah, you can see 4 different colors. Because in our classroom right now, we have 4 to 5 students. So we usually ask the child to choose one color. Yeah, and then we have a file which has different emotions inside. Yeah, so if your child do not have the vocabulary, this is also a good time for you to expose the child to different vocabulary. You can use the text or use the visual. For me, most of the time, I'll use the visual until the child is able to recognize that these are words. So when the child steps into the classroom, I will ask my child, like for example, hey Jaden, how are you feeling today? Yeah, so let's say Jaden tells me, oh, I'm feeling sad today, or I'm feeling very angry today. So I get the child to pick up the emotion, the picture, and then get the child to stick it onto the A4 laminated paper. This is something I have that I stick within the classroom. So before the start of the class, I'll do this activity with them. Yeah. So what is the other advantage of doing this? So for example, if I know the child is not feeling very good today, and I already have a lot of activities planned out for the child, then I'll know that, hey, maybe today I need to back off. I may not be able to push the child as much as I want to. Yeah, then I immediately, as a teacher, I can switch, like, okay, maybe today let's make the things a little bit simpler for the child to do, so the child will still continue to experience a sense of success within our classroom itself. It's not something that they always experience within the mainstream school. Yeah, okay? So that is something that you can do, or even if you want to just teach SEL, you can use charts, just visual charts to replace it. Yeah. Okay, and the other thing is working together as a team. Within the classroom, we also teach the children how to work together, especially you know how sometimes we have like 2 or 3 kids who really don't know how to work together. They always be fighting or they'll be having disagreement. Once they have whatever concept we teach the child, we actually play games with our classroom. You know, sometimes kids come to us and say that, you know, today we play game in our classroom. Then the parents go like, huh, so you're not learning anything. But actually that's not the case. You all know, I believe everybody has played Monopoly, right? So you have a chart, you have little tokens, and you have little different card decks. So all these card decks, right, some of them we actually go through like letter reviews, like can you form letters, so the child will go on the board. Then we have another card deck that talks about SEL. Yeah. So in this case, this was one of the charts we raised, took out a card that said, tell me about a time where you actually felt brave. So this is the part where we get the child to actually speak up about how, if the child doesn't know what's the meaning of brave, then you can just give example of it. Yeah, possibly with reference to what they actually know. Yeah, and get the child to speak up. You know, as you go to P1 and P2, and I believe in some preschools, they have show and tell. So the child may not feel comfortable in the mainstream school, but within a smaller classroom, they may feel more confident. So this is a good avenue for the children to start doing something that they actually do within their mainstream school itself. Yeah, so on each table, there are little decks, so you can actually open up and then distribute it and take a look at it as well. Yeah. Because coming to our classroom is not just, we don't just do literacy intervention, we also do a lot about soft skill, because you know that they are already struggling with their literacy. In the event that they move on to mainstream school, they need to know when to ask for help. And what better way it is to teach the child within our classroom that, hey, look, if you need help, you need to ask. And then that is where we actually teach the child how to help. And going to school is not just about academic success, it's also about building your social skills. So children may not know the how, so this is the part where teachers within the DAS preschool step in to teach them the how. Yeah. Okay, finally, RES Kids. I believe yesterday you guys attended a keynote by Geeta, right? I think something about advancing technology education. So RES Kids is something that we provide for all our preschoolers that are enrolled into our program. Yeah, so every child has access to it, and RES is actually an online e-book platform where we actually categorize the books into different levels. We have the level AA being the simple level, and it actually progress onto the level Z, I mean the Z1 and Z2. Yeah, so most of our children within our preschool program, I believe they are at level B to level C itself. Yeah, so we use this within our classroom to teach reading comprehension. We also use this as a platform to actually teach the child to read, yeah, to build up their vocabulary, and they can also bring it home and practice reading with the child. We all know that parents want to help their child, but then a lot of them say, hey, I don't know how to help my child, how, or I don't have the resource to it. So this is a resource that is actually made available to parents. Then they can practice it with their child at home. You can download it on iPad, as long as you have digital smartphone, you can actually use this. So in the rescue program, what it actually covers, you can actually listen to the story. So for children who are unable to assess the act of reading itself, because you know, some parents say, hey, yeah, my child can read, right? Then I was like, yeah, but the child may be doing it by memory. Yeah, or the parents say, hey, my child cannot read. Yeah, does that mean that I deny the child the opportunity to have exposure to reading itself? No, the child can still listen, so you help to increase their vocabulary, expose the child to different language structure as well. So that is for children who enjoys listening but not reading. So then there's also the option of reading the book itself. So then the child can read. There is a recording function. You can actually record it down. Then on my back end as a teacher, I can actually play the audio and listen how the child has been reading. Yeah, and then there's also a comprehension part to it. So at the end of the book that you read, they can just answer some simple question. That's also a good way to test whether is the child able to understand the text or not. Okay, Ken? Any questions on the rest, kids? Okay, it's actually a US base, so you can actually buy one license. So you can access it every other fortnight, but it keeps tracks of all the books that the child has actually read, and you don't have to manually say, oh, my child already completed level AA, I need to manually go in and move the child up to level A. No, it's automatic, so they'll just progress the child on, so on and so forth. So it also makes it easy for you as educators and parents to keep track of where they are. Okay, so that's it for today.